Zoom this morning and my screen turned pink. So if that happens today, just know I will be back in the Zoom as soon as I can. So hey, well, my clock says it's 2:01, and I know Jordan has a lot of great information ready to share with us. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to everybody. This is the September 2023 HomeNE webinar. We're excited to have all of you joining us today. South Central Economic Development District does serve as the lead agent for the HomeNE network, which is designed to provide all people across Nebraska a network that is geared towards housing challenges in rural communities, while also providing you face-to-face and online opportunities to foster interaction, engagement, and skill building for all of you. You may be a local leader, or you may just be somebody with a passion about housing in your community, and we're here to help you successfully address those local housing challenges as a statewide network. So today we are joined by Jordan Diedrich. We had such a great practice session with Jordan, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more from him. He is with Twin Cities Development out in the Panhandle of Nebraska, and he is also being joined today by a couple, if not three individuals, Pam Richter, Jake Olick, and Christian Para. So welcome to all of you. If you are here, thank you for being our presenters today. And Jordan, before we have you begin your presentation, would you just take a couple moments, introduce yourself to us, as well as the individuals that are joining you?
Yes, definitely. So, I'm Jordan Diedrich. I'm the Executive Director of Twin Cities Development in Western Nebraska. I've been in my position as Executive Director for about a year and a half now. January will be 2 years for me. We are, our name is Twin Cities, which would mean Scottsbluff and Gearing. However, we do cover, the Panhandle. So we work with communities all over the 11 counties of the Panhandle. So it's not just Scottsbluff and Gearing. I did come from a city background. I worked at the city of Scottsbluff for 5 years in public works before I came on to economic development at TCD. But really, housing is one of our big things. Childcare and then business retention, expansion, and attraction are kind of our three main focuses at TCD. I do have a couple guests here with me today. Pam Richter, she is with Northfield Haven Board, and we will talk about our Northfield Haven project later. She is joining us on Zoom from her home. Jake Olick with Olick Industries. He is not here yet, but he should be maybe joining me in this room soon, hopefully. He had some other things going on early this morning. And then Christian Para, he is an entrepreneur in our area. He's been working on a lot of rehabs and has taken advantage of our rural workforce housing program that we have here in Western Nebraska. He is also not able to join. His wife is having contractions, so he might be having a new baby here soon. So he was not able to join with us either. But that's who we kind of have here. I wanted to bring some experts along that we've been working with to basically, if you guys have any questions, to be able to ask them questions specifically. They're probably not going to do too much presenting, but I wanted to have them here for questions. All right, so we just completed a 2022 housing study. It was officially completed in August of 2022. We did that through WNED, which is Western Nebraska Economic Development. Basically, it's a group of municipalities and service organizations that come together once a month to talk about economic development in the Panhandle. So that group was able to fund and complete a housing study. And so through that housing study, we figured out that we estimated housing unit target demand for the next 5 years. And we did it for multiple counties, but I'm going to use Scottsbluff County as our example. So Scottsbluff County alone shows that we need 589 houses in the next 5 years. And so that's showing 330 owner-occupied houses and 259 rentals. So if you put that into perspective, that's over 100 houses per year. Most, if not all, Nebraska communities cannot do that. We don't have the capacity to build 100 houses every year for the next 5 years. And if you look at our last housing study that was completed the 5 years before this, the numbers were pretty close to the same. So we need to start, moving forward and making impact and getting those numbers down so that in 5 years from now, we don't have those same numbers again. So our housing study was very, very eye-opening for our community and just made us, realize that we really need to start working on some of these action items. So talking about action items, our housing plan actually showed 14 action items in total. A lot of them or all of them are great action items, but we wanted to prioritize our action items and kind of pick which ones we could accomplish first, which ones were possible. And so these are 3 of the priorities from those action items that we were able to kind of take on and do something with. So the first one is creating a regional land bank. The second one is to address special needs housing. And then the third one is to create a housing investment fund. And so these are the 3 things that I'll actually be talking about with you today and what we've actually done with those and what we've accomplished. So I'll start with the land bank. So I don't know, I'm sure some of you or most of you have heard about land bank before. It is basically a quasi-governmental entity that is developed or made to be able to identify dilapidated sites and buildings. And then after those are identified, then those are actually acquired by the land bank. And the land bank is able to clear the title of those properties. And then we protect it and secure it from further deterioration so that the property doesn't become in worse conditions. And then eventually we dispose of it by selling it to a developer. So we're finding these commercial buildings or houses or lots that are just sitting there, nothing's being done with them, and we're actually getting them. Instead of having them just sit there for another 10 years, we're acquiring those lands and then we're getting it back into developers' hands. And then the developer will then develop it by rehabbing the property or the house or commercial lot that's already there, or by tearing it down and building something new. And then it'll be returned to the tax rolls in better condition. So that's the basic gist of how the land bank works. So we, at this point in time, have an interlocal agreement between the cities of Gearing, Bayard, and Kimball. We would like to have more of the communities in Western Nebraska join the land bank. But as of now, Gearing, Bayard, and Kimball are the 3 that are a part of our land bank. We have signed the interlocal agreement and created the land bank. And so from there, now we're kind of early stages. We haven't done too much. Now we're working on the next part after the signing of the interlocal agreement. The next piece is a member community referral. So each of these 3 communities will have either their, their CRA or a PRT or a health board or something like that will become kind of their local committee that will kind of search and find these properties. And after each of these properties are found, then those committees will submit them to a regional board. And that regional board will then kind of go through those properties and prioritize them and decide which ones we should purchase and which ones we should not, and go from there. So they will prioritize those as a board. And then TCD, our part in this is to be the administrators. So we're going to handle the money, we're going to handle the paperwork, we're going to handle all that stuff. So we will be the actual administrators of the land bank program. And then, so the member referral of properties, like I said before, is going to be the CRA, Board of Health, PRT, or a committee that's developed by the actual local community. And then the regional board will actually be made up of a certain group of people. So there's a requirement of what people make that board up. And it has to be somebody from a chamber of commerce, a banker, a real estate developer, a realtor, someone in affordable housing, and then also a large-scale residential or commercial developer. And then there are non-voting members, which would be made up of people from those actual communities, such as a representative from Gearing, a representative from Bayard, and a representative from Kimball. So that's how that's set up.
Jordan?
Yep.
Quick question. What is a PRT? Could you elaborate before you continue?
It's a project resolution team. So I've never done one of those, but some communities will have a project resolution team, or like a school will have a project resolution team. So it's just a group of people that resolve problems, basically. So, or a problem resolution team. Yeah.
Okay. And then another quick question, why an interlocal agreement?
So to be able to actually have an official land bank, you have to create an interlocal agreement. So the way the state has it set up is you have to create an interlocal agreement. So just Gearing or just Baird or just Kimball couldn't do the land bank. You have to have at least two people or two communities signing an interlocal agreement to create the land bank.
Thank you. Just a couple questions that had popped in, so I wanted to address them while you were on this slide. So thank you.
Yes. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so moving on from land bank to special housing needs. So our housing study showed that up to 52 units of owner and rental housing was needed in our area for cognitive, physical, elderly, and adult care needs. So this is special care housing needed in our area. 52 units is a lot. So there's a group which Pam Richter's on the Zoom today called Northfield Haven Parent Group, and TCD and this group has kind of worked together on addressing the special housing needs. There is a facility or multiple facilities in eastern Nebraska that Pam and her group went and looked at to kind of get an idea of what this could look like, what we should do, what we need to do in our area. So TCD and the Northfield Haven Group partnered together to come up with a game plan on how we can address these special housing needs. And Pam, feel free to step in if you want to at any point in time, or if anyone has any questions for Pam, go for it. But you can go to the next slide. So what we came up with was the Northfield Haven Project, which basically is independent living for young adults with developmental disabilities. So TCD has a 105,000 square foot apartment complex that used to be a retirement home or retirement living. And we currently have 75 apartment units inside of that facility. And we had a wing that used to be a medical wing that was still unused. So we partnered with the Northfield Haven and decided to turn that wing into a 15-unit apartment complex for these adults with developmental disabilities. We were able to get a housing trust fund grant of $500,000. The total project was about $1.3 million. So we ended up having to fundraise the rest of that amount of money. So Northfield Haven and TCD worked together on getting funding from banks and private donors and companies and all sorts of places all over the place to make up that difference to make this project a reality. So the one of those apartment units is actually for an on-site resident manager. So there is a manager on staff that can be there to help whenever needed and to help with activities and those kinds of things. We also do have a large community room within Northfield Haven. There's a community kitchen, and then there's also a community laundry as well. So the TCD is basically the landlord, and Northfield Haven, the board, runs the operations. So we did all the construction, got it ready, did all those things, and now we're stepping back as just the landlords, and Northfield Haven is running the operation for this. So they're the ones collecting rent and kind of dealing with tenant issues and any of those kinds of things. Okay, so here's a picture of the outside of the building. So you can see it's the outside, we didn't have to do anything to, thank goodness, but you've kind of got a nice little covered patio there with glass windows, and then the doors on the right side there lead you into the community kitchen, and then on the left is the community room. Here's a picture of some of the construction. We had to actually tear up the entire sewer line and do a new sewer line all the way through the middle, which threw us off schedule and budget. So that was a setback that we had to deal with. You can see that on the left there. And then the middle picture and the right picture is the community room. And then here's an example of what some of the apartments started to look like. You've got the kitchen on the left there, a bathroom in the middle, and a bedroom on the right. And then you've got on the left, you've got another bedroom with a closet. In the middle, you've got a bathroom. And then you've got a closet on the right there. And then this on the left is what and I guess left and right is what the community room looks like when it was done. The left picture is our ribbon cutting and also the retirement of Rhonda Pierce. She was the director before me at TCD for the past 20 years. But we had a really good turnout for an open house and a ribbon cutting on the left there. And then the right is a picture of our donor wall. So all of those little leaves on that tree have the names of the donors for the Northfield Haven project. So as you can see, this was truly a community project, took a lot of partnerships with community members and businesses and those kinds of things to make it actually happen.
Jordan,
yeah.
There's a quick question about how did you acquire the apartment building in the first place? Do you have a quick story about that you would share with us?
I'm new, so I don't know all the details of how it was purchased or anything like that. So I really don't have a lot to say about that. It was purchased 6.5 years ago. And basically the building was being vacated and it wasn't going to be used anymore. And so the building was just sitting empty. No one was using it. No one was doing anything with it. So it was either going to be torn down or it was just going to sit empty. So TCD has done a couple projects where we'll take buildings that just sit there empty and we'll actually do something with them instead of the buildings just sitting there empty. So we did end up purchasing the building. I believe we got a loan for it to purchase it. That loan is now paid off. So we own the building outright. But we do have the 75 apartment units in there. And then we have the 15 extra units for Northfield Haven board or Northfield Haven. And we actually have apartments above 15 apartments above our office space in downtown Scottsbluff as well that we own, which our building here includes an e-center, an entrepreneur center, and then our building at Northfield, where the Northfield Haven project is, actually includes an entrepreneurship kitchen as well. So we have a couple buildings that have apartments, e-center, e-kitchen, and then we also have some office space that we also rent out to different tenants as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and I can clarify more on that later if there's more questions. Okay, so moving on to the Housing Investment Fund. So this really, we need to, it was saying that we need to provide financial support to local developers. A lot of the problems that we have now with developing properties is it's high risk. And it's just really difficult to do. So the purpose of this is to lower that risk for developers, less paperwork, and then also give them great terms and conditions for an investment fund to make it attractive for these developers to actually come in and develop instead of doing nothing. So with that said, we have been granted money in both 2020 and 2022 for rural workforce housing funds. So we filled out the grants and submitted them, and we're able to get 2 rounds of funding. And so the way that we set our rural workforce housing up is it is a low interest short-term loan. And when I say, and it's so for new construction, we're doing 0% interest. And for rehab homes, we're doing 2% interest fixed. And then they have 15 months to pay back the loan or until the house sells, whatever comes first. Every project has to have at least 10% equity to be able to use our program. So that could be somebody, if you already own the property, that could be used as your 10% equity. Or if you're going to purchase the property, then we'll give you 90% of the purchase cost and you have to pay for 10%, or whatever kind of a puzzle we put together to get that 10% equity. So this loan will go to contractors, builders, individuals, house flippers, you name it. We do ask though for experience. We're not just going to give the money to anybody who just wants to start flipping a house that day. We do ask for a background on experience with flipping houses or doing new constructions, those kinds of things. The fund that we have with those two applications that we put in and got is at $3.3 million. So that's how much money we have in our rural workforce housing account. So we do have some limits with ours too. If it's going to be owner occupied, the maximum per unit is $325,000 per unit, and that's on construction price and sale price. And then if it's going to be a rental, the maximum is $250,000 per unit. We do require the minimum loan has to be $20,000. Actually, our first loan that we gave out was $20,000 for a small project. And then for rehabs, the cost must exceed 50% of the assessed value. So if you have a house that's assessed at $100,000, at least $50,000 has to be put into the home to qualify for this program. So we're not loaning out money to someone who's buying a house and then just painting it and doing the floors. We're loaning out money for very dilapidated houses that need a lot of work and are really going to make a big difference in the community when they're flipped. So the eligible expenses for our rural workforce housing are the purchase of real estate, construction costs, supplies, materials, and then subcontractor expenses. We do not allow for infrastructure in the initial first round of funding. So after all of the money is recycled once, then we can use it for infrastructure. And that's the other thing I should say. This is a perpetual revolving loan fund. So we lend the money out, it comes back in, we lend it out again, and it just keeps going forever. So we'll just continue to do these projects over and over and over again as that money comes back in. And then we do have a review committee. So all of our projects are decided on by a review committee. This is our review committee here. It's made up of bankers, lawyers, economic developers, realtors, and those kinds of things. So we have a very knowledgeable board about housing projects. So they understand when someone submits an application to be able to do this, they understand fully what's being asked and if it's possible and those kinds of things. So the application asks for a couple things. We ask for the property information, like, what's the address and, size and those kinds of things. We ask for the assessor's information. We also ask for a project summary. What are they exactly planning to do with the property? We ask for a timeline because we want to make sure it fits within that 15-month loan that we do offer. And then we also ask for the estimated costs. So we ask for this to be itemized. So they'll break it down to where they'll say roofing costs this much, flooring costs this much, bathrooms cost this much, those kinds of things. And like I was talking about before, we ask for experience. So we want to know that if we're going to loan you the money that how to flip a house, how to build a house. If it is a new house, we ask for a site plan of the house or blueprints. And then we also do ask for personal and business financials as well, so that we can make sure that you have a little bit of skin in the game and some money to back it up, because we do require, we do a deed of trust on the property, and we also require personal loan guarantee and those kinds of things on it as well. So these are our funding partners. This, just like the Northfield Haven project, we had to match the state's funds. And so we went to our local communities and asked them to match. So in the first round, the city of Scottsbluff, the city of Kimball, the city of Gearing, the city of Bayard, and the city of Mitchell all matched funds. And then TCD, Western Nebraska Housing Opportunities, and NYFA also matched the Department of Economic Development. And then in our second round of funding, the city of Scottsbluff, city of Kimball, and city of Gearing contributed again for that second match to be able to get the money again. So the first year that we had rural workforce housing, we had absolutely no applications. So when I first started as the executive director, the program had been running for about a year and there were 0 applications, not even one. And so, as I started, one of the first things I had to kind of do was think, how do we get applications? How do we get this going? And so I was kind of banging my head against the wall. How do we do this? What do we do? And so I saw an article or a white paper from Golden Shovel, which is our third-party marketing firm that we work with for economic development marketing. And they had some creative housing ideas. So one of them was 3D printed houses. I went to a conference in North Platte about 3D printed houses. And unless you're going to do a lot of houses all in a row at one time, it's just not very feasible. It's pretty expensive to do. And so another piece in that article was about container houses. And so that I thought to myself, I'm like, that's doable. And we actually have someone in town that works with steel, does a lot of those types of things. So I called Aulick Industries, Jake Aulick, who was one of the guests but didn't show up today, Jake Aulick, and I asked them, I said, have you guys ever thought about container houses? And he said, yeah, actually about 2 years ago, we were thinking about container houses and kind of made some layouts and those kinds of things. And ever since that day, when I called him, they kind of took off and ran with it. So I'll talk to you guys about container homes on the next slide. And then the other thing that we did was we changed our investment plan. So we originally had our interest rates were at 2% plus APR at whatever the moment was. And so talking to some other communities that were doing rural workforce housing said that they had 0% interest for new construction and just a fixed 2% for resident or for rehabs. And so we switched our investment plan and changed it to match theirs because they were having success. And then also interest rates started to increase. And so since changing our investment plan and since interest rates have started to increase, we have started to get quite a few more applications for rural workforce housing. Our first one being just a $20,000 application for the city of Mitchell. But ever since then, we've been getting applications ever since, and they've been coming in pretty quickly. So why container homes? There's a quicker build time. You can build a container home in 1 month as compared to 6 to 8 months for a stick-built home. There's reduced waste. You can have up to 80% reduction in waste. There's less maintenance for the home. So for certain buyers, having less maintenance is a huge piece of home ownership. And less is more. You can do more housing in smaller areas. And more units can be built with fewer materials. And then also you can leverage your infrastructure. So you're going to cost a lot less money per unit to put in infrastructure when you can put, you have higher density housing basically. So the Gearing project, these are going to be one-time use shipping containers. Aulick will be able to build 1 to 2 houses per month in these containers. The houses will be anywhere from 480 square feet up to 900 square feet. At least those are the layouts that they have right now. They currently have 3 layouts that they've already built. They built like 3 or 4 of them already. There will be market rate rentals, probably anywhere from $850 to $1,600 per month. Some of them may be furnished, some of them unfurnished. And then it's also going to be in a gated area with green space. So they're going to have like volleyball courts and those kinds of things in that area in Southeast Gearing. So this area will be able to hold up to 70 container homes in that container home community. And then there's also extra land there by this community that will eventually be 70 residential lots. Some of those will be tiny home lots. So either more containers could be put on or, stick-built tiny homes could be put on. And then there'll also be at least 6 or more commercial lots too that'll be developed along the expressway there, which is the Heartland Expressway, is where that's at in Gearing. So here's a picture of what it looks like. So you can see down the yellow towards the bottom are the commercial lots. The highway is just well, I guess it's actually to the south of that. And then the circle is where the container homes will be. And then you have the blue and the purple to the left are the 70 residential lots. The light blue ones are those tiny home lots. So we'll be able to get some more tiny homes in there. And then all the way to the left are bigger lots for some bigger homes. And then you can see on the right, this is just a single unit, just one container from front to back. And so that's the first one that they built. You can kind of see it in construction phase as they're building it. And then this is their bigger unit. So this is 3 40-foot containers put together. And so you can see they have like a nice front porch area with some green fake grass and some lighting and a screen door and kind of a unique design to the window there on the porch. And then this is the inside. So you've got the kitchen here on the left side, you've got the kitchen on the right, and then the dining space area is to the left of the kitchen. And then the right picture is a picture of the bathroom. So you can see these are very, very nice units, nice materials used. All of the materials and appliances and everything used are all local from local businesses. So Alex will only purchase from local businesses. So everything, all this money is staying within our community. So the rural workforce housing projects for what we've done so far, new construction, we did have a single family home in Scottsbluff that was built. It is now on the market. We have 8 unit townhouses that were done in Scottsbluff across from City Hall. Those are also complete. I am actually meeting with the developer tomorrow morning to talk about pricing so that those can get put on the market. And then we also have approved 2 unit townhouses in Kimball. And we're just waiting on our second round of funding from the state to be able to start that project. And then also the container home project. And then we have 12 rehabs that we've done so far in Mitchell, Gearing, Scottsbluff. And we do have a partnership with the high schools, which I'll show you some pictures later too. But one of the houses that we did this past year was a partnership with Scottsbluff High School. And so we bought the house with rural workforce housing funds. And then the high school comes in, the high school students come in and they help us rehab the house so they can learn the demo, putting up drywall, doing electrical, those kinds of things. We have allocated over $2 million to projects so far in the last year and a half. So that first year, like I said, we had nothing, but in the last year and a half, we've done $2 million in projects. And we actually currently have 2 applications that were just submitted last week. We do not have enough money to fund both of them, so it'll be interesting to see what our committee decides to do. One of the projects is for 13 new houses in Gearing, and the other project is for 13 apartment units in Scottsbluff. So now I'll kind of show you some of the projects that we worked on. This is the new construction house that's in Scottsbluff. So you can kind of see them going through the construction phase. And then this is an almost finished product on the bottom right-hand corner there. So that's in Scottsbluff. And this was on, there are 2 empty lots that are just in the middle of a neighborhood. And so the guy bought 1 empty lot. And once he gets this one sold, hopefully he'll buy the next empty lot and do the same thing. This is a rehab project in Mitchell. So this is a pretty cool project too. The guy who's building, who's rehabbing this house is actually working with students or kids who are on probation. So he's working with probationary kids to build this house, which has been pretty cool. It's been a slow moving project because he's been doing that. However, it's a great cause, and he's doing a lot with workforce development, helping some of these kids learn how to do these skills. This is a rehab in Scottsbluff. This is one that's done by Christian Para. who was going to join us today. He's the entrepreneur that's been doing a lot of rehab houses. He does a lot of rehab houses with us, the ones that qualify, but he also has done some extra rehabs that don't necessarily qualify for our program with the bank. But that's one of them. You got the kitchen on the right and the bathroom on the left. And this is that same house. You can see the before picture on the left with all the trees and the yellow and the patio looking rough, compared to the picture on the right. They got rid of all the trees and the shrubs. We're able to paint the house and refinish it with black and white, and redo the roof and all the gutters and all that. So you can see the difference there. And this is the townhome project in Scottsbluff that just finished up. This isn't the actual one here. This is the same exact layout and look, just in a different community. But this is basically what it looks like. So we do have 8 new units in Scottsbluff. You can see the very nice finishes, the nice cabinets, the nice flooring, everything like that. So we're really, really excited about this project. We gave them $480,000 to do the project. So we gave them about $60,000 per unit to do this project. So, and we're hoping that they will do another project just like this, just in Gearing the next time. And then this is a project that was done by somebody in Scottsbluff as well. So you can see what it looks like before on the left side and then the after on the right. Obviously a big difference. You went from a greenhouse to a nice black and white and gray home. This is the same house. You've got the before picture on the left and the after picture of the kitchen on the right. Nice countertops, new cabinets. And they haven't done the flooring yet in that picture. This is the same house. You've got the bathroom. Obviously a big difference for the before and after. Then this is the living room area. You can see what the walls used to look like with the brown. And then they kind of updated it with the white and black look. And then these are the high school houses. So the one on the left is the Scottsbluff High School house that we actually worked on this last year. It is not complete yet, so we're still doing some finishing touches on it. The one on the right is not a for sure house, but a potential house that we're going to work on with the Kimball High School. So we are going to potentially look at purchasing this house and doing a remodel with the Kimball High School students. And that is all I have for you. I kind of had a Wizard of Oz theme for it today. They asked me to do a title and I had no clue what to say. So that was the first thing that popped up was what was it? It was Rehabs, Containers, and Homes Oh My. I just was a huge fan of Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. I watched it all the time. So I just thought that was a good title for it. So yeah, any questions?
There are some questions, Jordan. First of all, thank you for your presentation. As people are starting to formulate their questions, I'm going to share with you some that are already in the chat box. You mentioned the need for experience to apply for some of your rural workforce funds. So Tammy wanted to know, how might people gain some experience if they're new to this?
So one way that we've kind of done, somebody who doesn't have as much experience, we've encouraged them to partner with somebody else. So they'll bring on a partner that maybe does have some more experience. And then if you can combine the experience of yourself who doesn't have a lot with somebody who does, we will be more likely to lend you money. Someone who maybe wants to flip a house but has never done that before, if they partner with somebody who has done it before, we'll look at it more closely. We just don't want to give a chunk of money to somebody who is not going to actually be able to complete the project and make it happen. We are probably a lot more lenient than other places. Someone with even just a little bit of house flipping experience or even doing, home projects themselves, we will look at that as experience to be able to do this. We just want to make sure that the projects can actually be completed. But the other way, I guess, is through Our local community college is starting to do classes on, with electrical and plumbing and those kinds of things. So I guess going to classes with your local community college could help you get the experience, or maybe getting a job in the construction field or something like that.
Well, and I love what you're doing with the high schoolers too. That may not be appropriate in all cases, but giving them the experience while they're still in high school to work and gain some of the valuable skill sets that they would need later on. So thank you.
And one
Amanda,
of the cool things too is this next year, the high school is actually, Scottsbluff High School is actually partnering with OLEC on the container homes. So they were actually able, instead of the students having to get into a car and drive somewhere, they moved containers to the high school. So the kids are actually on site working on container homes this school year, which is a great project for them.
Just a quick question. Who are the renters living in the container homes? Since you mentioned them, what are you attracting young professionals? Who's the target audience and who's attracted to those?
So the target audience is young workforce, or, so like a good example. So Jake runs OLEC Industries, and he runs a lot of like career-based learning programs through the high school. So he'll partner with the high school, and those high schoolers will come learn how to weld. They'll learn how to do all sorts of different skills, but then they graduate and they have nowhere to live. So these containers are really focused towards young workforce. So, someone who graduated high school, someone who graduated college, a young couple, those kinds of things, because they are smaller units. They're cheaper than buying a house, cheaper than renting some other places. So the target audience is definitely kind of a younger workforce.
Okay, thank you. So Amanda wanted to know, did the city of Gearing have to amend any zoning and building codes to allow for the container homes?
Yes, they did. So Gearing did have to go to their city council, their planning commission and city council, to change some zoning and regulations to be able to allow for container homes. The way they did it now is that the container homes can go in that specific area, but you cannot just build a container home anywhere in the city. It has to go in that specific area. If you guys are interested in something like that, the city of Gearing is definitely willing to help or share their information on how they did it and what exactly they did. But yes, they did have to amend some of their rules and regulations.
Okay. And then Miles asks for a clarification. In your presentation regarding the townhomes, you said that you gave about $50,000 for each unit. Was it a gift or was it a loan? Could you please clarify that?
Yeah. So we gave $60,000 per unit, and it was a loan. So as soon as those so the way it works now is every time one of those sells, they will pay us $60,000 back. So if he sells one of them next week, he'll give us $60,000. If he sells another one, he'll give us $60,000. So as those sell, we'll slowly get that money back. But it's a loan. Yeah.
Okay.
0% loan. So they just have to pay just the $60,000 back that we gave them.
Okay, great. What other questions are coming to mind for Jordan this afternoon?
Lots of diverse projects, Jordan. This is really awesome. What was the general feeling in the community of doing a container home neighborhood?
It's mixed feelings. I still have people that think that it's going to just be this rundown like neighborhood or something like that. But we do have a lot of people who are excited about it because we need workforce housing, and to build a stick-built house, even like the townhouses, like for a lot of people, those townhouses are still going to be out of their price range. They're not going to be able to afford them. But that's because they cost a lot to build. So you have to sell them for, a profit or at least break even. So the container homes are a must to have workforce here, to be able to keep those high school students here, to be able to get people to move here, to take some of the jobs that are available here. But yeah, it's a mixed feeling. I would say it's more people are excited about it than are not. But we do definitely have our naysayers that don't like the idea. They think it's going to look bad, those kinds of things. And that's where Jake's coming in. He's going to make it nice. It's going to be a gated community. It's going to have green space. We're going to One thing that Jake wants to do with the property, I don't know, he's working through legal with it. He wants to see if it's possible to make so that the people who live in there have to have jobs, so that they are, if you're not working or you don't have a job or you're, those kinds of things, that you're not necessarily allowed to rent there. So it's not just going to be, a bunch of people who don't have jobs living there. He wants it to be for workforce specifically, people who are in the workforce. That's what the housing is for.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds me, about 15 years ago, we moved one of our kids to Austin, Texas. And the reason she chose the apartment complex she did is because they built community among their tenants.
Yes.
They had the pool, they had cookouts, they had grills, community grills, that kind of thing. And it reminds me of that, something for the kids that maybe stay behind after high school or community college, to be able to live in the same area and have that community that sometimes gets lost if there's only a few of them that have stayed behind. So that's really awesome. I wondered if he was doing, or you guys were doing any PR about that or not.
Yeah, so that project, the project that Jake's working on is going to be in 3 phases. So the first phase is going to be the commercial land on the south side, those yellow lots. That's phase 1 that they're working on now. So they'll build that frontage road, and then they'll sell those commercial lots. And selling those commercial lots will be able to help fund phase 2, which will be the residential lots just to the north of that. And then phase 3 will actually be the container homes. So the container homes are probably still like 2 or 3 years away from now. So we still have some time to get there. But we're really excited about it, and it should be great for the community. And we do have the missile project in Kimball that's coming up in the next couple of years. And there's probably going to be need for housing for people that are going to be working in Kimball. So the container homes are a great spot for people that are working in Kimball, and all sorts of other things. So it's definitely the right time to do something like this. And, that's going to be up to 70 units that are there too. So, and then his property is going to be 70 residential lots. So that's a lot of residential development that could potentially happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And we actually are currently working on, they're kind of in the beginning phases, but in Gearing alone, we are working on about 200 residential lots in Gearing. So, with Jake's project and 2 other projects, we have a lot of residential lots that are going to be coming up, and we have partnered with some new builders that are interested in building on those lots. So we're hoping to see a big housing boom here in Gearing, especially in the next 5 to 10 years.
What is the projection for the number of workers to decommission the missiles?
I think that it seems to be different all the time whenever I hear it, but it seems like the normal number that I normally hear is about 2,500 people.
For multiple years, right?
Yes, for probably about 10 years. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's amazing. I had one other question. You had the new construction on an infill lot, and it looked like it was on a crawl space. Was that a choice, or are you guys in an area where you can't have basements?
No, we can have basements. It was just more cost wise. He, couldn't probably afford to put a basement on there and keep it under the limits. So we can't have basements. There are some areas in Gearing specifically that can't have basements because of the water levels, but most houses here have basements. Yeah, and actually a lot of the houses that are being built through rural workforce housing are not having basements. Like the townhouses that are just being built, the 13 houses that an application was just made on just last week, those ones will not have basements. So a lot of these new houses that are being built won't have basements, and a lot of it is just because of the cost to build. So
are they on crawl spaces by and large, or are they slab on grade?
So the ones that will be like the 13 that were just applied for are slab on grade. But it's a mixture, some slab on grade, some crawl spaces. But in the ones that are that just applied for funding, they have even, let's see, most of their houses that they submitted are 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. but they also have a layout for a four bedroom, 2 bath or 3 bath also. So it'll be kind of a bigger footprint, but there will be no basement.
We have to get creative to stay within that 325, and yet it's workforce housing. And so, on one side, you're trying to get the most house for the money. And on the other side, you're like, but 325 in some areas of Nebraska, that's too expensive for the workforce.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I think back to when I first moved here and my first home that I bought. And, there's no way. I mean, I couldn't afford a house like that. There's no way. So it's still hard to get it into the affordable range. One good thing about like maybe these townhouses is that a lot of the interest that we've had in the townhouses are from older people, retired people, empty nesters that are looking to move out of their 3 or 4 bedroom or 5 bedroom house into a townhouse to downsize, which then opens up a house in our community for a family. So either way, whether it's, a workforce person moving into the house or somebody opening up a different house for workforce, either way is great. We need it all. So.
Jordan, you had mentioned earlier the cost of the container homes. If somebody's thinking of maybe replicating that, can you talk a little bit about what that's running, how that's working, the bottom line for those?
Yeah, definitely. So I believe Jake would have to tell you the for sure numbers, but I believe that the cost to do a container home to actually build it is anywhere from $80,000 to $125,000 to build it. All of the container homes that Jake is doing are going to be rented out. None of them are going to be sold, and they're going to be managed by TCD. So they're all going to be rented. That's his kind of his plan at this point in time. He's not selling any of them. But yeah, anywhere from probably $80,000 to $125,000 to make one of the container homes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Jordan today?
Looks like one came in. What is happening with the container homes that are being built? So right now he pretty much they own a couple different business properties throughout town. And right now he kind of has the containers that have already been built just sitting on his different properties so that people can see them. So at this point in time, it's kind of like a PR thing. He's just wanting people to see them, wanting people to tour them, wanting people to look at them. So at this point in time, they're just basically sitting on his properties. And he's working with the high school students to start building some more. But they won't be put on the actual land until probably 2 years from now. So basically what he's doing is practice round. So he's just kind of getting a feel for it, getting it down, understanding what he needs to do differently, what he needs to do the same, just kind of practicing before he actually starts building these houses in mass production, basically. But he should be able to do 12 to 24 houses in a year. So every year we'll get an extra 12 to 24 houses out of these containers.
Wow, that's impressive. Very creative and forward thinking. So, okay. Any last questions or comments for Jordan?
Since we have a couple minutes before we hit the witching hour, I'm wondering if Pam is still on, if she has anything to add, her perspective on the special needs housing. We don't hear much about that. So that's an exciting endeavor.
Pam, you're muted. Pam, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. It is an exciting project. And as Jordan went through all of his projects today, I want to emphasize how TCD forms partnerships in our community to get projects done. And when myself and another parent went to Omaha to visit the housing campus that we looked at for those with disabilities, we came back and we went to TCD, and right away the answer was yes. We want to be involved. We want to do this. We have a property. Let's do it. And they wrote a grant, and we helped raise the other $800,000 in the community. And Jordan showed you the wall of everyone who donated. And it is just awesome. We opened in May, and we already have 10 apartments rented. TCD is working with us the first year to only accept lease payments for those that are rented. So we have 1 year to get to full capacity. They have been so supportive, the board members, the community. My son has autism, and he lives there, and he loves it. And I know the other 9 residents are so thrilled. Last night, we had a family night and a carry-in dinner, and the community room we used. Jordan didn't show the game room. We have a pool table, we have basketball hoop, we have cornhole, we have ping pong, and we all had a great time last night at Northfield Haven. So we are very proud of our housing campus, and we would have never been able to do it without TCD's partnership.
And a lot of committed parents. That's awesome. I love that story.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a great story. Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I just want to say thank you to Pam and Jordan, both of you, for joining us today and sharing the story of what's happening in the Twin Cities area. Jordan's contact information is on your screen, so feel free to grab that and reach out to him if you have any further questions. So if there are no more questions, we'll begin to kind of wrap up here for the day and just let you know that next month's HomeNE webinar is going to have a little bit different feel and format to it. We have not just one, but 2 different speakers talking to you about the upper story living story in the downtown of their communities. It is a topic of great interest in Nebraska, and our October webinar will be a collaboration between our HomeNE network as well as our counterpart organization, Thriver, in South Dakota, to bring you an interactive event. So as you know from your own community experience, many communities across rural Nebraska and South Dakota have downtown buildings that are have underutilized or vacant 2nd and 3rd story floors. And so we're going to examine the question of how those might be redeveloped and provide upper stories to help solve our housing needs in our communities while still maintaining retail space on the main floor. So we'll be joined by Dave Rippey, who is a familiar face to many of the Nebraskans that are participating today, as well as Tom Farber. He is from Britton, South Dakota, and he is a developer extraordinaire in his hometown who saw a need, decided to do a project, and the rest is history. So we'll be hearing from both Dave and Tom about what they're doing and hearing their stories about stories in their community. So please join us next month for HomeNE and the Thriver Live event. We'll be doing some interaction with our speakers, doing some Q&A in a slightly different format with them. So I'm really excited, looking forward to it, and I hope you'll consider joining us. So once again, thank you, Jordan and Pam, for sharing your time with us today. We hope that it was informative for everyone. And with that, are there any last thoughts or comments, Jordan? Anything you want to share?
No, I just really, really appreciate the opportunity to share our story and what we're doing. And I think somebody put in the chat, these Zooms are phenomenal, and I agree. I join almost every single month for the HomeNE, and we have learned a lot through these Zooms and what you guys do. So we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for those kind words. And with that, if there's nothing else, thank you to everybody once again, and have a great rest of your Thursday. And we'll
Thanks,
see you in
everybody.
October.
Bye.